just as good even when closed your eyes.
Hello, YouTube. Welcome to MLC's live expert demonstrations. This is episode 1. So I know we have a few counts today. I know most of you guys are watching this on a replay. So if that's the case, please subscribe to our channel. Take a look for upcoming live videos. We've probably got one on there. For those of you out there, I appreciate you joining. Steve, Marcus, I know you guys are out there in the chat. I'm hoping that these become very interactive in the future. But most of all, I wanted to do something that is collaborative. We're working together in 2 different spaces. So I've got with me Jared Degatere. Jared, how you doing today, man?
What's up, everybody?
Thanks for joining.
Thank you guys for joining.
Yeah, man. Are you a certified SOLIDWORKS expert?
Absolutely, have been for a little bit now. So
Me too, man. Me and Jared are both applications experts here with MLC, both certified SOLIDWORKS experts. I'm in Austin, Texas. Jared, you're
I'm out in Lafayette, Louisiana. So Cajun country.
deep in Cajun country. Well, this is, I think, a good chance for us to work, to do demos with some of the collaborative stuff because we're in 2 different locations. So, really to show this stuff off, you got to be having 2 people work together in 2 different spots showing different screens. So this is a good outlet for it, I was thinking. And again, I'm hoping to be interactive. So, Marcus, if you need to learn anything today, you just ask questions in the chat. We're going to keep an eye on it. Today's topic, of course, is SOLIDWORKS files in the cloud. And in case you haven't heard anything about it, if you've shut your doors and locked yourself in super tight the last year, SOLIDWORKS can now connect to Dassault Systèmes' 3D Experience platform. It's a cloud platform to do all sorts of different stuff. Collaboration between people, absolutely. But one of the first things for SOLIDWORKS users is data management or even just file storage. Ways to get our files to 2 different offices or people working at home, working in the office. So that would start there. It's kind of ground floor. We're both SOLIDWORKS users, right? That's how we'd use it, work it together. And why not do it live, man? Anything can happen when it's live. So, actually run the software instead of playing canned videos, actually answer questions coming in on the chat and do it live. So I thought we'd start at the ground floor. I'm gonna flip over here to a screen of mine where I'm actually in 3D Experience right now. This is my 3D Experience platform. You actually access it through a web browser. I've got open a 3D Lean board right now. This is an app that I use really just for meetings. It's kind of like the next generation of PowerPoint for me. I've got a bunch of kind of slides that are interactive here. But the cool thing about this is multiple people can log in. Like my whole team can log into this, and you could put sticky notes on it. You can use it like a whiteboard. It's pretty cool if you got a big touchscreen monitor, but it allows you to have that whiteboard meeting even though you're, I don't know, spread out across the country. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm going to talk about data management a little bit, or really just like data storage. It's probably you think that's a proper name for that, Jared?
yeah, I would say so. I mean, we're not really going to get too deep into the weeds of the data management side of things, but primarily, I think trying to highlight the fact that we can work collaboratively with a minimal amount of setup.
That's a good point to put out. Because everything I'm doing here, I haven't done any setup at all. Everything I want to show is just what you get out of the box. There's a lot of things you can tweak, but you're right, minimal setup here. And I'm calling this data storage and not data management because this first tool I want to show you is more like using Dropbox or OneDrive. It's just a place to put files, but you don't have to think about any of this type of like revision control, PLM, lifecycle stuff. And this is called 3D Drive. Another cool thing about 3D Drive, besides it just being as easy to use as any of those folders, a OneDrive or a Dropbox or anything like that, is that anybody who logs into 3D Experience will have access to a 3D Drive. So you're going to have other people on the team who are not SOLIDWORKS users and aren't connected to SOLIDWORKS, but you want to invite them to design review meetings, right? You want to collaborate with them in some way. You want people to be able to pull a bill of material. I don't know, whatever reason they're working with you. They also get a 3D drive. So for everybody that logs into your 3D Experience platform, you get 5 gigs of storage. So Jared, you and me can both log into our tenant. That means we get 10 gigs of storage for you and me. And as an admin, I can actually allocate 9 of those gigs to me, or all 10 of those gigs to me, and like 0 to you if I want to. So
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of that would leave me on the sideline just doing nothing as normal. So appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. Now, I actually stole a few more gigs for myself, but the default is like everybody gets 5 gigs of space in here, no matter what different apps you have on 3D Experience, SolidWorks or not. You can have up to 5 on here. And I'll just show you what it looks like inside of here. I've got my 3D experience broken up into tabs. Totally customizable. So like, Jared, when I show your screen, I'm sure you're gonna have a different layout. You know.
Yep, absolutely. Those dashboards are pretty nice.
Yeah, it's almost like tabs in a web browser, although I think of this more like I'm maybe accessing another computer, like a remote desktop. I just use my web browser to do it. So I have a tab here that I call data management, and I just open up different data management apps in this one tab, kind of keep things clean. The one that I've got opened full screen right now is 3D Drive, right? The one I was talking about. And you see over here on the left, I've actually got more than one drive. I've got 3D Experience, the System, 3D Experience XMLC. So if you have multiple platforms, which really nobody does but me, I'm just lucky that way, you can have more than one drive. Here's my MLC drive here with my files. It's got files other people shared with me. It's even got a trash can. And I can link into here Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, OneDrive. So if you're already working out of these drives, put them all in one space. You can access them. We'll show you how to access them just inside of SolidWorks as well. But it's pretty convenient to have all this stuff inside of here. I can see what's shared with me, which files are my files, and kind of jump around. So I don't have to know anything about, data management, rev controls, what the file types are. It doesn't matter. I can put any type of file inside of here. It's just easy cloud storage. A couple things I want to point out, Jared, before I put a few files in here is how it's different from Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive. Not only is it connected to my private platform, in the data center closest to me, so we have that security of 3D Experience stuff, but I can allocate that drive space to everyone else too. And I've got this trash. When you delete stuff out of here, it's not immediately gone like it would be out of Box or Dropbox. In fact, if I go into the admin's configuration setting area, this thing, which I said I wasn't going to do, right? I'm going to stay on default settings. If I went into there, one thing I can enable is a share by link. So by default, we're really not allowed to just share things externally out of 3D Drive. This locks down security a little bit more than Box or Dropbox, right? So I've actually enabled some of that, but we're going to share internally to each other today. And the other thing you can do is turn on iterations, which is a file history. So if we're sharing a file and then you start overwriting it, I can actually see what day and what time you overwrote that file. When I click on a file over here, I can access its information, on the right side that pops out. Now this one really hasn't had much, happen to it, but I can get iterations of a file, which some you can't do in Dropbox or Box. So you might have overwrote my file, 5 times yesterday, and then I go, oh my God, what is Jared doing? This is all wrong. And I can restore an iteration from 2 days ago. So you can control it. It keeps maybe 10 iterations by default, but you can tell it to keep more of those, as long as you got enough storage to keep, a large history of files. So that's almost data management.
It's getting there.
It's moving in the right direction. So this is me accessing it through the platform, right? But most people access Box, Dropbox, Google Drive not through the web browser by Windows Explorer. And you can install this into Windows Explorers as well. So these cloud apps, they either install locally or they connect to local stuff. So you can see it down at the bottom. It says configure 3D Experience Drive for Windows. It's because it's already installed on my computer. In fact, all I had to do was click on this compass in the top left-hand corner, pop it out, and the first time I launched my 3D Drive app, it gave me that option, like, hey, do you want to install this locally? I said, yeah, let's install it locally. And so what you get is something like this. This is my Windows Explorer. And I've got a folder over here on the side. You can see I've got, BoxSync, Dropbox as well. I got OneDrive. So it's very similar to those, right? Just another folder over here. It's got those same items inside of them, and I've got green checks on the ones that I know are synced and uploaded. This one down here actually has a green check and a little person symbol on it because I've shared it with somebody else. It's my file, but that lets me know this is also shared content. Somebody else might have access to this thing. Now, you can use this for anything, but we're talking about SOLIDWORKS files, so let me bring up SOLIDWORKS, because over here, the way you access really anything 3D Experience is in the task pane. All right, this is my session app. For those of you out there who have ever used SOLIDWORKS PDM, you use it over here, right? You right-click on reserve files, unreserved files. You're going to know the interface from that type of stuff. It's tree structures. It's not unlike anything else in SOLIDWORKS, but it's also got that compass button right up here. So I can access all of those same apps I was just accessing through my web browser inside of SOLIDWORKS. I can hit 3D drive from here, and then bang, I've got kind of my 2 drives here. I've got my MLC one and the other one. I can see all my files, the ones shared with me. Now, I've actually got more control inside of SOLIDWORKS and inside of the web interface than I do in Windows Explorer, because here I've got the trash, I've got shared with me, I've got the history and file information. So you do get kind of more robust functions if you're doing it inside of SOLIDWORKS or inside of the platform. But I want to move some files that I've got in there, just Windows Explorer style. So if I go down to my desktop, I've got a folder right over here called Gripe Grinder for grinding all my gripes. And inside of it, I've got a simple assembly for doing my gripe grinding. It's got this many files in it. It's not a huge number of files. And what I'm going to do is just a little copy. I just Control-C that to copy and paste right inside of my 3D drive folder in Windows Explorer, which is, not unlike what you'd see happening for Dropbox or OneDrive or anything like that. And you get a symbol on here as well, the refresh symbol, just like you would in OneDrive for this thing's getting picked up and getting synced up to the cloud. So just kind of give it a second to go up there, and then I'll have it on the other side. I got a green check on it there. That's all it took. Very complicated, right? Jared, I think even you could master this, getting a file inside of here.
That's pivotal technology, I tell you.
Pivotal. Actually, I got the folder in here. I got all the files inside of here as well, all the SOLIDWORKS files. So they're all over on that side. And then I could go check them out on some different spots. Tell you what, I'm going to jump back to the web interface. I work here a bunch, and you can actually see the folder popped up here immediately. There wasn't any refreshing I needed to do, anything like that. But I would say if you guys are getting into different apps, for those of you watching who have 3D Experience and you're like, I wasn't using Drive, and you just install it for the first time, like any other apps, I do like to check the preferences of any app I'm using. You drag it out here, you start using it, check the preferences and just see what navigation stuff, what's available to you here. This is set with the default preferences. There's nothing you have to do to make it kind of refresh automatically like that. So I've got my gripe grinder folder in here. Let's take a look inside of it. Got all the files as well. Looks pretty good. Navigation is basically like Windows Explorer. Now, what if I take this whole folder here? I'm going to look at some of the drop-down options to it here. I can move it somewhere else. I can edit properties of the folder itself. I can upload into it, download into it, delete it. I'm going to add members to it. So that's one way I could share this internally. And I'm not talking about like an external share link, right? I'm like, this is just internal to my platform. So I didn't have to make any settings changes, default to do that. Can edit. Let's look for Jared. I'm going to give you can edit because I'm,
Yeah, that sounds good. Don't try to spell my last name.
I hope I got it right. I wrote it on the screen here for YouTube, so I was like, I hope I got it right. I felt proud of myself when I learned how to pronounce it. I've got some, Louisiana family, so I'm like, oh, I should know how to do this stuff. Dude, check out this assembly
Alrighty.
for grinding gripes. Now, I'm not going to allow you to share this with others. I feel like you can edit
Yeah,
it,
it makes sense.
but I don't know about just letting you share it with others. That sounds like.
Yeah, you're being trusting enough. You're being trusting enough. And look, I just got a notification over here.
Did you? I got a notification on my side too. I got a nice little green pop-up that said, "Hey, sharing was successful." Tell you what, before I switched over to your screen, I am interested. I have not refreshed anything over here. But take a look. My gripe grinder folder over here, you can see it has the little blue shared by symbol.
Yeah.
So
Right. Right.
all these things happened automatically. We didn't have to push any refresh buttons. It showed up here, and you said you got a notification on your side. So let me do this, Jared. Let me switch over to your screen.
Yep. And
Cool.
just let me know whenever that my feed's pushing through, Philip, because I've got a little bit of lag over here from just watching the YouTube live. So
Yeah, no, it looks good right now. I've seen your screen. Actually, I saw a cool
cool.
question in the chat, which is live. What happens when multiple people try to open the same shared file? Well, right now, that was a good question, Michael Ennis. Right now, the same problems as always, because we're kind of on
Right.
that level 0 file storage. Like one person's gonna have write access, one's gonna have read. It wouldn't be good. But we will get to the solution to that problem. So that's a good
Yep. Stay
question.
tuned.
Yeah, keep that
Stay
one
tuned.
pinned.
All right, guys. So if my feed is coming through, this is going to look really similar. I'm just sitting here in a web browser, right? And I've got this notification that just came through because Philip just pushed this file set over to me. He said, "Okay, Philip shared a gripe grinder with me." He said, "Dude, check out this assembly for grinding gripes." I've got plenty of gripes. I'm sure everybody can relate, so I'm definitely going to go ahead and and take a look at that. So I'm just going to get into my 3D drive. This is the web interface, right? And one of the really cool things I like about the platform is this built-in preview device that we have. So 3D Play just is basically a previewer. So I'm going to go and find our grape grinder assembly. I'm just going to drag and drop it into this 3D Play application.
Sweet. So you've got kind of the same layout as me, but you just decided to drag a 3D play and sit it next to your 3D drive.
Yep. So super customizable. Once again, I mean, every user has the ability to customize their interface to where it suits them best. Of course, on the flip side of that, you can also, as an administrator, create a controlled dashboard that you can push out to your users. So really cool, flexible stuff here. But this allows me to basically zoom in, zoom out, check out this assembly that we're working with right here. You can also do stuff like explode. So you can just kind of explode everything to where you can see how all the parts fit together. And this is accessible from any device that's connected to the internet.
That's not
Okay.
an exploded view that's made in SolidWorks, is it?
Right. So this is just this is doing the exploded view by itself 100%. So you don't have to waste time doing it. It's kind of, I mean, funky, I guess, the way it's blowing it out, but it gets the point across, and you didn't have to do any work for it. So
That's pretty cool. I think you
take what you
can.
can get. I don't want to hear your gripes. That's why we have this gripe grinder up
That's
here.
right. I think you can do
So
that in eDrawings too, man. It's like an Easter egg in eDrawings. If you hit E, I think it might be X. I think it's E though. It'll do something
yeah,
similar.
there's some type of functionality in there, right?
Yeah.
But this lets me preview it, and I just think it's really cool. Once again, if you have like somebody on the shop floor and they need to see how something fits together, maybe they could access it from an iPad or something, or their iPhone, right?
Yeah, that's a good
So
point. Because that's
this is definitely
100%
what
cloud, yeah?
yep, 100% cloud, man. No local installs or anything. So that's what I'm looking at doing. I'm gonna go ahead and minimize my web browser and get SolidWorks open, right? So from within SolidWorks, this is this little task pane icon that Philip was showing you guys earlier. I'm going to once again access that 3D drive, and we're about to kind of move into the next stage of the data management side of things.
Yeah, that's a good stage to get to because it answers kind of Michael Lannis's question in the chat. Right now, people are solving their work from home problems the way that we're doing it so far, right? People are using 3D Drive, using OneDrive, or whatever, sticking it in there. What happens when two people try to open the same file? Or like what happens when one person works on an assembly? They get write access to all the files inside that assembly too. So then another user can't even work with any of those files, and it bogs stuff down.
Yep, I'm sure a lot of people here could relate to that.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is kind of move into that next phase of data management in the platform. So I'm just going to drag this gripe grinder assembly out into my SolidWorks. It hadn't been synced to my local hard drive, so once again, this isn't a canned demo, so we are
That's right.
100%.
Just get when it's live.
I'm just gonna yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and download this. So I'll save this to my desktop maybe.
You can leave it
Just
there,
right.
refresh too. Do you have 3D Drive installed locally? Like, do you do the Windows install?
Yeah, I sure do.
Okay.
I sure do. Maybe it'd be easier to open it through there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's worth checking. That thing seems to sync and update, live for me. One thing I'll
Right.
point out
Okay.
while you're in here too is the shared by stuff. I drove you wrong a little bit. The shared by stuff won't immediately show up in your Windows Explorer 3D drive. When somebody shares something with you, like over in 3D Drive, like you're looking inside of SolidWorks, you see three folders. You see my files, shared files shared with me, and trash, right? And what you see in Windows Explorer is just my files. So if you're out there and you have that experience, you can get into that shared files folder and you can right click the file you want, like right click a file, right click a folder, and you can either choose to add it to my files or copy it to my files, and then it'll show up there just in case like you really want to see it, inside of Windows Explorer. You can do it that way.
Right. Cool. So I just right click this from inside of my SolidWorks task pane, and I just added it to my files. I'm getting right back into my drive. I'm going to jump back in here. Now I have the availability to open all of these.
Sick.
So cool deal. I'm going to open this up. Like I said, 3D Drive isn't absolutely my favorite method of data management in the cloud, but we did want to showcase that piece of functionality there. But now we're really getting into what I would consider true data management inside of the cloud. So it's all Cad-aware, and it allows people to have a little bit more control over their assemblies and parts, right? So once again, I'm inside of this task pane, and this is real similar to a PDM interface, if you will. I can see my status for all of the parts that are open in my graphics pane over here. And right now, the symbol that it's giving me is saying that this file has not yet been saved into 3D Experience. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click this, and I'm going to hit Save with Options.
So it's in your 3D drive, but we're not really considering that as in
Right.
the data management part of your platform. That's why it's kind of like level 0 data storage. Okay.
Absolutely. So thanks for pointing that out, Philip, to clarify that a little bit. So the first thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to copy these files to my local working cache, my 3D Experience working cache. So I'll go ahead and hit copy. Those files are going to get copied over into that local cache, just like a local cache with PDM.
Can I interrupt you again? I do want
Yeah,
to point out,
interrupt away.
just because I've been the admin of the platform, so I have tweaked some settings, and I wanted to keep things standard. But the enforce copy to a local cache like that is an option. It's actually an option in the task pane there inside of SolidWorks. So you can leave your files wherever you want across your computer if you like it that way. What I've done for us is I've enforced that every time you save, it gets copied to your local cache spot and it gets renamed in a convention that we want files named, like uniquely named. And I do that to prevent file duplicates because SolidWorks looks for files by their name. Even if you think like, oh no, I saved them in two different servers or whatever, it looks first by name. If you got two parts named Grinder, it's going to find the wrong one at some point. So I just go, hey, make sure it always copies to my local cache folder and gives it a unique file name. Bam, I never have to worry about file reference issues. Though you have to deal with the file name that I want, which is like an MLC-CAD and a bunch of numbers. And then that local cache by default, it's on your C drive. Just like a C 3D experience, you can actually work directly inside of it if you want to, but you don't have to. And in fact, I really don't. And most people using like 3D experience SolidWorks, like SolidWorks Connected, won't ever even look in that inside of that folder.
So Phil, this assembly that you sent over here, does it have like 500 different configurations or something?
It does have a lot of configurations in a couple of the components. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, so that's what's going on right here is that it's calculating all these configurations. That's why my screen was acting a little spastic there.
Well, why does it matter
Basically,
if if a file has a lot of configurations? What's different?
so great question there. So whenever these files get pushed to the platform, what we know as a SolidWorks part actually gets saved out as a CAD family. And then any of the configurations within that CAD family are going to be saved out as what's called a physical product. So it kind of gets its own little placeholder in there once it gets saved up to the cloud. So that's why this has taken a little bit of time, just due to the fact that there's a large number of configurations in the background.
Yeah, no worries.
and it's
You can let it
trying to
process.
calculate through all
It's
that.
interesting to point that out. I definitely gave you one with a super uh, large amount of configurations in some of the hardware. But any SolidWorks file on its own is really constructed of three parts. It's kind of got the parasolid data, which just describes the body, right? You could just save that to like steps and parasols,
Right.
what you get. Then it's got the parametric data, which is really the feature intelligence and all the intelligence we build in. Then it's got the graphics display data. And 3D Experience is one big database. So by breaking it into its constituent parts, you can do different stuff. Like when you pull something into 3D Play, you're just accessing that display data part of it, which is why you can be super fast with a giant assembly and spin it around and use it there. So it kind of gives you ability to a lot of different stuff. But it's true, when you get up there now, you're actually going to see kind of like a new file for every configuration. Now
Got
I
it.
usually
Got it.
clean those out when there's a quick way to clean them out, and I'll just use like one. But yeah, that's what's going on.
Cool. So I deleted those because they had like a million different configurations. And instead of boring everybody with that, I just went ahead and took them out. But notice how this save went a lot smoother this time. So all these files, if you look in the status column right here, they have that green check mark next to them. And that's implying that, you know what, the file has not been modified at all since it's been last saved to the 3D Experience platform, and it's also been pushed up to the cloud. So now those are cloud files inside of what we would call a collaborative space, which allows us to manage things like the maturity state of those particular files and manage things like who has the reservation for that file, which is
Mm.
similar to a check-in or a check-out if you're coming from the PDM side of things.
So that will
So
prevent problems with two people trying to work on two files at the same time. Basically, can't happen.
that's correct. That's correct. I want to show one other thing here before we jump off.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get into my bookmark viewer. Since everything's housed inside of a big database on the platform, these bookmarks are really useful in navigating and finding your files whenever you want to access them. So you can think of this as kind of like a Windows folder structure. Um, if any of you guys were paying really close attention whenever I made this save, you would have noticed that I saved all of these to a particular bookmark. So now if I click on this gripe grinder bookmark, essentially a folder structure, right? I can see all of the files that were saved up here.
Okay, so these are your
So,
project folders, and it looks like you made this folder ahead of time.
yep. So I just had this created here. Pretty easy to make another folder structure. It's just a right click away, right
Gotcha.
click, and then you bookmark. So
Yeah.
nothing really Nothing really too crazy there.
We haven't done this together, I think, yet, Jared, but you can actually templatize these bookmark structures. So like if you have a project
Right.
folder structure that you want to be consistent with company-wise, you can always use that template. So yeah, I see.
Yep, we do that a lot on the PDM side.
Yeah, right. Okay. Cool. So I see like three different, I want to call them file types, but I think the correct name is object, because I see you've got some physical products, which are what configurations
Right.
come over as, and I know that because they look like SOLIDWORKS symbols for parts and assemblies. But then there's like a new symbol there for like, six of your things.
Yep, that's those CAD family files that we were talking about. Yep.
Gotcha. So those CAD
So,
families, that's like the file. The configuration though is also kind of like the file. Which one do you like working with? I guess it's a file, or you can open either one.
yeah, so I like working with the physical products. So that's generally what you're going to actually be making changes to. You can think of the CAD family as kind of like a big container that just houses those physical products.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove these just from the bookmark. I'm not going to delete them. I'm just going to kind of clean up my working area here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And now this is what I've got. I mean, this is just as easy to drag and drop these physical product files around as if you were working inside of a Windows folder structure. So like if I wanted to kind of clean up the components and move those around, we could do that. So I'll house all the components inside of like another bookmark folder
Okay,
by
nice.
doing this. And then I'll just leave that main assembly sitting right here at the root level of that project folder. Trying to be nice, look out for like the people that are going to come behind me. Unlike Philip, who decides to send over like 100 configurations whenever we do an upload. So, so this is looking good. Man, so I guess what we really need to do next is just kind of demonstrate how those reservations work. Does
Yeah,
that sound like a plan, Phil?
yeah, make some changes to it. Tell you what, I'm gonna flip back to my screen and see what I see over here, because we're supposed to
Cool,
be working
cool.
together. I put them in Drive, you took them out of Drive and said, hey, I want to use some data management, and you put them into a space. So I'm switching back over to my screen now. And real quick, I'm just going to jump back to my 3D lean board, because really here we've moved from what I was calling level 0, which was data storage, into the first level of data management, which is putting your files in a 3D space. I think of a 3D space, if you're a traditional SOLIDWORKS PDM user, I think of it like a vault. It's just kind of this big database space, and you can send all your SOLIDWORKS files there. They come through SOLIDWORKS, they get translated, as you saw, into these cool ways, so you can deal with, just the 3D shape or the physical product, and you can leverage them in different ways across the platform. But it also means now they're in a data management system, so it's much easier to share with people. We're not going to, have troubles working on the same file at the same time. If somebody opens up a top level assembly, it doesn't mean I can't work on a sub assembly or a part. And sky's the limit from there, because this is just level 1. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna jump back over to my data management tab, and I'm just gonna minimize the 3D drive that I had over there and maximize, let's say, my bookmark editor. I got a whole bunch of bookmarks that I've been working in, but I see the one here called Gripe Grinder. Look at that. There's the Gripe Grinder assembly and the components subfolder. I could use it in 3D drive. After I open it too, my thumbnail on mine, I've got mine set for big thumbnails, will actually show the shape of the Gripe Grinder as well. And that kind of stuff in the Bookmark app, again, is in the preferences. I mentioned to take a look at it for 3D drive, but when you start working in a space, then it's much more important to look inside the preferences, especially because you might have multiple spaces. And whenever you create anything, you create a bookmark, you create a file, you make an X Drive file, whatever, you can put it into the correct space. So you can see which space you're in, and then some other cool stuff like allow products to expand is checked on mine, and I'm showing the thumbnails. I've also chose what columns I want here at the top. And the product expansion allows me to click on one of these and see a sub-assembly and more components inside of that assembly. So make sure you check out the preferences for all these apps. Down at the bottom, they've always got a toolbar, ribbon style at the bottom. That's where I customized columns for this kind of stuff. And of course, I can drag and drop right from here into SolidWorks. Or let's see if I pull my SolidWorks up again. Just like before, when I got in a drive, I can get into my bookmarks from right inside of SOLIDWORKS as well.
Everything is connected. That's one of the big takeaways that I got whenever I first started working here.
Everything is connected in a huge way. That is very true. And one of the things that I probably should do here too is mention that I've got the ability to set everything to a specific space. Like even inside of here when I'm working, I want to make sure I'm saving into the correct space. Now, a lot of people just use one common space, but think of it like PDM. Some PDM users have multiple vaults for different teams, and that's kind of like you can switch, which vault you're on. But let's take a look in that subfolder I just had open live. I've got the Gripe Grinder subfolder. I've got Gripe Grinder assembly inside of there. I'm just going to drag it from there into SolidWorks. And let's see what happens here. It looks like it's preparing, it's fetching data. Now this stuff wasn't on my computer in that space or with these file names. I've got title here, which is really a custom property that was mapped in from SolidWorks. So you're seeing the name Gripe Grinder, but really my file name is mlccad dash, a bunch of numbers. But inside of this assembly, if I look at its properties, it had a configuration property called title. And this thing picked that up and wrote that over there for me. So just kind of, we're talking data management stuff now. It's like reading attributes and pushing them around. So it pulled title into there. It also brought this in as Rev A.1. It's the very first one in existence. I'm not going to talk much about, I don't think we should talk much about life cycles and workflows, but Rev A, and it wrote that information back to the part when you saved it in, so it knows that it's A.1. So I've got this assembly over
Yep.
on my side. Maybe I want there to be a couple of these in here. I'm going to go ahead and close my bookmarks editor. And I get back to the My Session app that that Jared was showing you earlier, and it's got some different things to show me. I've actually moved one of these components already, just moved its position. And so that's enough since these have freedom to move. Check it out. They move around like this. Oh man, you took the hardware off and it can move all over now. Dude, you broke some of my mates. There's definitely work to do in this subassembly. And of course, whatever I do in that subassembly is going to affect the top one. Boy, where do
Well, you've got all the data over there. I think you had like 9 out of 10 gigs, so you should probably knock that one out.
which one of your mistakes do I want to fix first? I think I think I'm going to start at the top level, and I'm going to try to repair top level assembly mates. So in
Okay.
order to do this, I'm just going to right click on the top level over here and hit reserve. And reserve, analogous to checkout and PDM, has given me a little green key over here on the side.
And hold up, I'm instantaneously seeing a red lock over here for that
All right,
same
hold on.
file
Let's
set.
let's look at your screen. All right, we're taking a look at Jared's screen now. I see the
All right,
red lock
so
you're talking about. Okay. So you saw that
so I'm
instantly?
another user. Yeah, that came over, I mean, pretty much as soon as you hit it over
Did
there.
you hit a refresh button or anything?
Yeah, I refreshed it, but
Where do you do
I
that?
can I can refresh on demand by clicking right here and then hitting this little refresh button. If I hover over that, it even gives me a tooltip, says reserved by Philip
Oh,
Morrow.
sick.
So I know exactly who to bug if I need to work on this.
All right, that's super cool. And actually, some of those columns to the right, those are customizable again as well. They could say my name over there. You can have reserved by who it is.
Right, right.
That's pretty cool. So it's kind of like a rebuild in terms of refreshes. Like if you do a certain operation, it's going to rebuild. Like I don't know, you close and open a sketch in SolidWorks, edit and close out of a sketch. It's going to rebuild your part. Over here, it's going to update this information sometimes, or you can manually hit refresh and it'll update things there. Now I do know if you had tried to reserve that before any refresh happened, so it had the red lock. It didn't have the red lock there yet because I just reserved
Right.
it and you hadn't really done anything in SolidWorks, and you tried to reserve it or do something with it, it will prevent that. So those are kind of actions that would make it go look, so you wouldn't have that type of issue. All right, I'm gonna switch back over to my screen. Okay, here I am back at my screen. I've got one subassembly that I didn't reserve, but I've made some changes to it just because I'm basically changing its position, moving it around. That's the arm, but I'm not going to do anything with the arm. What I want to do at the top level is see, there's a couple of concentric mates that were kind of blown away before. I'm going to try to rebuild some of those and see if we get the motion that I'm looking for. So I got one of them in there. Yeah, that looks okay. Let's see, I like to choose faces when I'm doing mates instead of edges. You
Word.
know what I mean? They give a little more information. And then, oh, look at that. Now, you did delete my awesome hardware, but that looks pretty darn slick. That thing moving
Yeah,
around.
well, so you got the motion working and everything. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. That's a it's a cool little assembly. Do it. If you're out there watching this live or on the replay and you don't know how to make very clean assemblies like this, I'm going to throw a link for you in the chat. Make sure you check it out. We will teach you how to do that, no problems. Okay, so
Right on.
I've added some top level assembly mates. That's really what I'm worried about. It's got my name as the reservation owner. I guess I should save it up so that you can get this type of stuff, right? So I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
that sounds like a plan.
makes sense, right? I'm gonna right click and hit save. There's also these buttons down at the bottom, like save is down here too. Just I've been a SolidWorks user for so long that I'm just trained to right click everything, you know?
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a right click kind of guy as well.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Save. I get a lot of info in this save dialog too. Like I'm just saving top level assembly, but it shows, hey, you made some changes to the sub assembly, but you didn't reserve it. So you can't. Maybe somebody else had reserved it in the meantime. So it's warning me about all that kind of stuff. Now nobody else had this reserved, so I actually have a reserve button here and I could just click it. But I'm not worried about that sub assembly. I actually want to lose those changes. It's totally fine with me. And I could enter a comment. I'm gonna save it and then I'm gonna release the reservation after the save as well. So all those things were in that save dialog. Like if I forgot to reserve something or if I just want to be done with it, and unreserve it at the same time, bang. So I saved it. I don't have any more key symbols up here. Thing looks pretty good. What does that look like for you, Jared? How do you get that stuff? I'm going to switch back over to your screen now.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. right now I still see the red lock, but I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick refresh just to
Okay, because you weren't doing
see what that
anything
looks
in
like
SolidWorks. You
afterwards.
weren't like opening any
There we
files.
go.
All right.
Yeah, so cool. I'm just sitting here. I had this. I didn't even manipulate anything whenever we turned it back over to you. So I see that that reservation went away, meaning that the file's no longer reserved. I also get this symbol, and it tells me that the structure associated to this file has changed inside of 3D Experience.
Hmm.
So what that allows me to do here is I can now right-click that, and then I can select Reload from Server. Basically, get the latest version, if you will, of this particular.
Ah. Okay.
Let's see what this gives me.
So it's like a get latest.
Yeah, so we're reloading. Now I get the green check over here, and I bet if I try to move this thing around, yeah, it works now. So those mate updates that you just created over there are working pretty nicely for me now.
Sick.
Of course, since I moved all this around, it's going to let me know, of course, that the uh,
You,
this particular save, it's going to it's going to mark it as being dirty.
yeah,
In
it's
other
kind of like
words,
what it did to my
right
sub-assembly
on.
earlier. So tell you what, why don't you can leave it in whatever position you want. Why don't you reserve that top level assembly? And I want to make a change, to a sub component real quick. Since we don't have hardware in there, I'm gonna make it look like it's supposed to
Cool, cool.
supposed
I
to
like it.
supposed to be that way. All right, so you've got it reserved. It means I can't work with it, right? I'm gonna switch back over to my screen, and I'm going to reserve a subassembly. I'm going to take just the handle part that's there, right click and reserve that one. There you go, shows reserved by me. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and refresh my session as well just to show that immediate red lock. And I keep my reservation owner column like right over there too. So it's like red
Yep.
locked, and that one's by Jared, so I can't work on that. But I can work on this subassembly at the same time. And tell you what, the sub-assembly is what I wanted. Is honestly, it was this component. This gives you the same cross-highlighting as a SOLIDWORKS tree, so I'm going to reserve that one as well. And really, this is probably like the only thing I really wanted to make a change in, because I was thinking I'm going to open this component up, wow, it's all done in one sketch. I'm going to get into the sketch, and I'm going to, well, if I get rid of these holes, which is kind of what I wanted to do, what I'm going to do, end up having is a broken mate because I mated concentric to those holes. But what I'm going to do is add another hole. Since they were made inside this sketch, and whatever, I'll add another one, and I'm going to make it equal in radius to these other two. So its size is the same. And I like to do, there's a lot of ways to do this, like a symmetry relationship, but I like to use a couple center lines sometimes. And then I'll just use equal relationships on those as well. Notice I just got a fully defined sketch without putting any more numbers into it. Right? So, sketching is really the fundamental area of SolidWorks, and everything builds up from there, and that continues as we go into 3D Experience and Cloud, Data Manage, and as we move to other things that are connected together in 3D Experience as well. So that's one way to do it with just the equals relationships inside there. So I put a third hole on this guy, and you know what? I don't think we need to make it out of the material that's on there either. There's like a DIN material on there. This is my thing, so I'm going to make it out of gold because I can. And then I'm going to hit save, regular old SOLIDWORKS save. I guess I could turn on my real view graphics. It doesn't look that much like gold. I have them off. But I'm going to hit save. That save right there was local. That was just a local save. So I'm going to give you guys just a preview of what I mean. If I jump over to my C drive, I've got a 3D Experience folder that's over there. I've also got a PDM vault, but a 3D Experience folder, and inside of it, I've got a My Work folder. This is what it looks like if you're an existing SOLIDWORKS user and you've just connected SOLIDWORKS to the cloud like I have here. If you're brand new to SOLIDWORKS, you get 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS. This folder's in a different location, but it still exists. And inside the My Work folder, I've got interesting information as well. So you can see the reservations inside of here. Jared's got that one. I've got two reserved. There's been some local changes made on these things that haven't been saved up. About 4 of them are already saved up to the cloud. So you can work inside of here. There's a lot of right-click stuff you can do. You can organize in here. But I haven't found a need to. It's there. If you like that structure, like, you can use it. When I hit save, that's where it's saving to. And that's why I still get the local performance. I'm not really worried about
Yep.
the internet, although my internet's super fast over here. I don't know how it is in Louisiana, but at least where I am.
I got gigabit over here,
Oh,
man.
okay.
I can
Yeah, we're
upload anything you want.
we're running at the same speeds. So yeah,
Man, One other thing I thought of, since you made that change, you made the change to the subassembly component. Is that
I did. I
correct?
made it to a part inside of a subassembly.
Okay, that handle part.
Yep. Do you want me to take a look?
I was just thinking, yeah, I wanted to showcase one
All
thing
right.
that comes up pretty
I'm
often. A
showing your
lot of the times
screen
if
now.
you, okay, cool. So if you make a change to one part, and I'm sure all of you guys are pretty proficient in SolidWorks. Oftentimes, if that part's used in a couple of different areas, you can run into trouble. Maybe you only intended for that change to happen in one of the assemblies that it's used in. And that's where this relations app comes in. So you can actually select any of these files here, and you can hit relations, and you can see all sorts of basically any related object to this particular file. So I'm just going to kind of expand this out over here and take a look at where it's used. And you can see that this handle is used in the crank subassembly, which is then used in the gripe grinder assembly.
Wow.
And if this was being used in another assembly, I could see it right here and then, make the appropriate change if that was needed.
And even
So
your
I just wanted
your
to showcase
bookmark is
that because
here
that's,
too.
yeah, even the bookmark shows up. So I just think that's pretty powerful and can save you a lot of trouble from making maybe some inadvertent types of changes.
Yeah, that's a really good one, man, because that's your where used content. You can you can filter that thing pretty good too. I notice your bookmark is there, and when you start working in 3D Experience, it's like, oh, you can connect all sorts of stuff together. I got simulations that are different things and bookmarks, and
Right.
if you have a big
Good
assembly, you
point.
can see a lot. You can filter a lot of that stuff out so that you're just looking at, the file types and things you want to see. But yeah, I probably should have checked some where use info when I go changing parts. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna flip back over to my screen. Here we go. And I'm just gonna save up this subassembly. I mean, I can't save up. I'll save the subassembly of the part. I can't save up the top level, even though I've made some local changes. I know I'm gonna lose those because you've got it checked out, or I gotta call you and go, hey, wait, I did some work and I forgot to reserve. This kind of thing. So you have to police a little bit, but it tells you all the info. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this guy. Saving into PM Vault. See if that's true. But I put it in the bookmark. Want to make sure I save it in the right spot. Yeah, it saved both of those up for me. Save both of these. And I didn't do the save with options that time, so I didn't get that full dialog window that shows me like where is it bookmarked, who is it reserved by and stuff. I just hit save and it's like boom, kicked it on up. But I guess I'll go ahead and unreserve these as well because I'm done working on them. I changed them to gold. I punched another hole in the middle of it there. I think I'm good. I can see you're still on the top level assembly, so I'm just going to switch over to
Yep.
you. And now
Cool,
we're
cool.
looking at your screen.
Yeah, so once again, I get these little marks here, just letting me know that those aren't the latest. I'm just going to reload from the server. That way I get the updates that you created.
Okay, sweet.
Doesn't
So
really
you're just
doesn't really
reloading
take too
like the
long.
subassembly.
Right on. That's all we had to do
Cool. Do
there.
you have to rebuild?
So
I saw that.
I'll go ahead and rebuild. Let's see if we get any changes here. And I'm not even 100% sure what you changed either.
I I think I put one other. Uh,
Oh, there we go. I just had to upload. I had to reload from server the top level.
okay.
That's all.
Oh, I get it. You
Very good.
reloaded the subassembly, but not the part that was inside of the subassembly. So you did kind of a get latest on a certain file,
Yeah.
but not the files inside of it. Because I was like, where's my gold?
Yeah, it kind of threw me off for a second. I didn't know what changes you had made, but
There's
that
always
that,
a rhyme and a
that took care of
reason.
it for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Man, I'm trying to think of any other functionality we want to show here,
Tell
Phil.
you what, I don't want to go too much further. I'm going to show my screen for a second because I do want to get back over to
I'm gonna
my three lean
I'm
board.
gonna unreserve that part too, by the way.
All right,
Just
I'll reserve it. Don't do too much more with it. Leave it open. I got something else I want you to do with it before we close up shop.
cool.
Um, because that was kind of just the level one of data management. How two people work on the same file from two different states. Like we're in, like that. It's not that hard. You got to learn about reserve and unreserve. You got to read the symbols. Yeah, you could
Yep.
just use a 3D drive or a Dropbox or something, but then two people can't get in the same assembly and make changes, and you don't really have any history. You just lose a lot of control. There's a lot more that comes to it from there. We just talked about level one, but all this stuff is going into a life cycle now. I mentioned that it was stamped Rev A by default, and we've actually been working on it on an in-work state. You don't have to know any of this stuff. If you just want to work with two people in two different locations on files and have, secure access over them, you don't have to know anything about this kind of life cycle Rev A, Rev B stuff.
Yep.
But that would be the next place to go. I think I think we should store some of that away because I'm sure we could talk for quite a long time and go into additional levels. But why don't I switch back to your screen and why don't we just put these files in a release state? So
Yeah,
I'm
cool.
going to switch back over to you, and I can see,
All
yeah, and I
right.
can see they're in work on the right side of your screen right now.
Yeah. So one other thing I want to point out is that you can limit who has the capabilities to make these maturity state changes. So not just